Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Eliezer Melamed Shlita. Here we are, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parashas Bahar Bechukosai, Shabbos Chazak. As we're getting closer and closer to Chag HaShavuos, we ask you to please continue davening for Chayalei Tzvah Gana Yisrael, for Shalom L'chol P'tzui Yisrael, safety of our brothers and sisters in Israel. We learn each day L'ilui Nishmat Ser and Daniel Shimon Amar V'Derlim V'Shali Shem Gam Damo. And to conclude our wonderful sponsorship this week from a loyal anonymous listener, L'ilui Nishmas Bracha Bas David Chaya Bas Shmuel Rachel Hinda Bas Simcha David. The Neshama should have an aliyah. Again, thank you so much for the generous sponsorship. Anyone would like to do so, please feel free to honor someone, to commemorate, or just because. But the last chapter of the week we'll have is Zmana Keneged Zman HaTamid. Tiknu Chacham and Zman Shel Tefillah Mincha Keneged Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim. So the timing for Mincha was established to correspond with the timing of the afternoon Karban Tamid. Mikar Adin Zman HaTamid Achar Sheish She'os. Ideally, the Talmud should be brought after 6 halachic hours, which was then half the day. And then the sun begins already to dip towards the west. So Chazal were worried, though, that people might make a mistake in trying to figure out these places of the sun. So they therefore instituted that only after half an hour could they bring the Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim. Nimtza shezman mincha maschel b'sheishos mechza shel yom. So it wasn't exactly 6 hours a day, so it was 6.5 hours of the day. So we know that it's really on that half of the horizon. Bepoel nogel lahakavetz Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim achar teisha shos mechza shel yom. In actuality, the way it worked out, though, is that they used to bring the Tamid in the afternoon after 9.5 hours of the day. And they should Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim hu a-karban acharon, because it was the final carbon of the day, hachosim asiyom, which sealed and closed off the day. And after the carbon Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim was brought, you couldn't bring any more carbon ola, a shlamim, a chatas, an asham, etc. So therefore, it was pushed to the very end till 9.5 hours of the day, to be the very last carbon. The only exception to this is when Erev Pesach falls on Erev Shabbos, on a Friday, where they would bring the Tamid right after 6.5 hours, because the Pesach was time to bring it was after the Tamid, and they needed a lot of time to bring everyone's carbon Pesach until Shabbos started. So therefore, therefore they had to make the Tamid carbon earlier. Very technical part discussed in the Gemara at length. So this explains, though, why we have two different portions of Mincha, or Zmanim for Mincha, as you might see on a Luach. One is called Mincha Gedola or Mincha Katana. Zman Shel Mincha Gedola, the Mincha Gedola time, is Misheshos Mechza ad Teisha Shos Mechza. It's from 6.5 hours to 9.5 hours. Again, it's going to be on the earlier side. Mitzadadin Zman Aroi Lakravas Tamid, and technically speaking, one could bring the carbon Tamid, Ulam Bepol Rak B'Mikrim Nidirim, and only on very rare occasions was the Mincha Gedola Zman used for bringing the Tamid, as we've just mentioned, so after 6.5 hours until 9.5 hours. Uzmana Shel Mincha Katana Meitesha Shos Mechza Vatzov Shtemes Shos, and the time for Mincha Katana is from 9.5 hours until 12 hours, Klomer Ad Sof Yom, until the end of daylight. Uba HaYurigilon Hakrat is the Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim, and this is when the Tamid Shel Bein Harabayim was normally brought. The Karla Mincha Rishona Gedolas. Why the differentiation? One called Mincha Gedola, the great Mincha, and one the less smaller Mincha. So it's called Gedola B'nei Zmana Aruch Yoser because it is longer. It's Shalosh Shos. It's 3 full halachic hours. Again, we're talking about Shalosh Zmanios halachic hours. Vashniya Shezmana Sha'ataimu Mechza Nikros Katana. The second one is only 2.5 hours. Ukvar Lamanish Shos Elu Zmanios, and as I just mentioned, these are of course dealing with halachic hours, Zmanios. Mechalkim es Meshach Hayom l'Shnei Maser Chagalakim, which means, just to review, that we take the entirety of the day, we divide it into 12 equal parts. V'chol Chelek Nikra Zmanit, and each one of those 12, 1/12 of that section is called an hour, a halachic hour. B'kayit Shayom Mit'arech Hashos Haruchos. In the summer, when there is a longer period of time from daybreak until sunset, so obviously the halachic hours are going to be longer. And in the winter, when it's a much shorter period of time, the halachic hours will be certainly much less than 60 minutes. Kivan shebapol hoy makrimin es hatamid mincha katana. So since practically speaking, they would bring the tamid at mincha katana, which is the later part of the day. Ladasa Rambam lechatchila tzarich lispal mincha be'os hashah. So according to the Rambam, ideally one should daven mincha at that time. V'rak b'di'eved efshar lotzei sidei chovas mincha bezman shel mincha gedola. And only in a case of great need or b'di'eved, a person can be yotzei by davening mincha gedola, which is earlier on. V'kach nifsach b'shulchan aruch, and this is how the Shulchan Aruch paskins in Reish Lamed Gimel. Omnam. Since there are those who hold that actually me'ikar adin, the beginning time for bringing the carbon tamid is from 6.5 hours, so efshar l'chatchila lehispal mincha bezman shel mincha gedola, then even l'chatchila one can daven mincha early at mincha gedola. This is the Rif and the Rosh. V'yesh omrim shafrei shel l'chatchila lahaktim es tefillas mincha kol efshar shezrim makdim l'mitzvahs. Reb Saadia Gaon adds that we have this additional ideal of zriza makdim l'mitzvahs, that the sooner we could do a mitzvah, that's when we should perform it. And since the earliest time for mincha is early, so that's when someone can start davening mincha, because the tamid could be brought then as well. Lamaisa, so practically speaking, what should we do? Adivli spal b'shas mincha katana. It's ideal to daven in mincha katana, what we would say we normally do later in the afternoon. Ulam b'shat tzurich efshar l'chatchila spal mincha gedola. However, in a time of great need, one can certainly daven mincha gedola. L'mashal mishyesh l'shtei efsharios. So let's say you have two possibilities: lihispal b'minyan mincha gedola or b'chidus mincha katana. You could daven with a minyan early at mincha gedola, or you could daven later without a minyan. So Adev Sheispal Minyan Mincha Gedola obviously says it's better to daven with a minyan at Mincha Gedola. V'chein mi shenoeg le'echal ruchas tzaharaim achar shegiz ma Mincha Gedola. Let's say someone who has a custom of eating lunch as soon as Mincha Gedola arrives. Afshal halacha hu rishoy l'smoch al vakil v'lechal of pnei sheispal mincha. Even though we explain, and we'll see it coming up soon in a couple of halachas, that you're not supposed to eat before Mincha, but technically you're allowed to daven. And even though you have eaten beforehand, but if you have the possibility to daven first, one should certainly do so. And this is what the custom is in many, many yeshivas, that we daven early, and then they eat, and then they have their afternoon hafsakah. I'll just give you another example. This is not found in the Sefer. This is just something for us. In the wintertime, for instance, on Shabbos, when the weather is very bad, sometimes we will have Shachris, Kiddush, Shir, and then go straight to Mincha Gedola, again, just because of the weather elements. So that's another circumstance where this would come into play. But it's interesting that you have to understand the moniker of Mincha Gedola, Mincha Katana, where it comes from, and there you have the rest of the story. So thank you all for listening. Please continue davening for Chayli. It's talking to Israel, safety of brothers and sisters in Israel. Thank you to our sponsor this week, Nishmat. Bracha Bastav Chaya Bashmul Rachlena Basimcha David. Nishmat should have an aliyah. Wish everybody a peaceful and restful Shabbos. We thank you for joining us and learning this week, and we will see you here next time.